High school can be a place of memories and friendships, but sometimes, it can also be the setting for something far more sinister. This is the chilling story of Daniel, a high school student who experienced something so terrifying that it still haunts him to this day. It all began during Daniel's sophomore year in high school. He was an average student, not particularly popular, but he had a small group of close friends. One day, as he was heading to his locker, which was located in a dimly lit hallway on the second floor, he noticed something odd. His locker door was slightly ajar, even though he distinctly remembered closing it securely earlier that day. Thinking nothing of it, Daniel opened the locker to retrieve his books. That's when he saw it, a message scrawled in red ink on the inside of the locker door. It read, "You shouldn't have opened it." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine, but he assumed it was a prank pulled by one of his friends. He laughed it off, erased the message, and went about his day. However, things didn't end there. The next day, the message reappeared, and this time it was accompanied by a sinister whisper that seemed to emanate from the locker itself. "You shouldn't have opened it," it hissed. Daniel's heart raced as he slammed the locker shut. He decided to confide in his friends, who initially thought he was playing a prank on them. They went with him to his locker to investigate, but when they opened it, the message and the whisper were gone. They laughed it off, assuming it was all in Daniel's head. But the horrors didn't stop. The locker continued to torment Daniel. Every day, the message returned, each time more threatening than the last. The locker seemed to pulsate with a malevolent energy that sent shivers down Daniel's spine whenever he approached it. As the days turned into weeks, Daniel's once peaceful life spiraled into a nightmare. He couldn't focus on his studies, and his friends began to distance themselves from him. They were convinced he was the one behind the terrifying messages. Desperate for answers, Daniel decided to research the history of his high school. He discovered that decades earlier, a student had mysteriously disappeared near the very spot where his locker was located. The student had been involved in occult practices and was rumored to have opened a forbidden portal to the other side. The legend went that the student's spirit had been trapped within the school, seeking revenge on anyone who dared to open the portal again. Terrified but determined, Daniel sought the help of a local paranormal investigator. Together, they performed a cleansing ritual near his locker, hoping to rid the school of the vengeful spirit. For a while, it seemed to work, and Daniel's life returned to normal. But the peace didn't last long. One night, as he was leaving the school late after a study session, he heard faint whispers coming from the hallway where his locker was located. The locker door creaked open on its own, revealing the same chilling message. "You shouldn't have opened it." The next day, Daniel transferred to a different school, leaving behind the haunted locker and the horrifying memories of his high school years. To this day, he still can't explain what happened, but one thing is certain. The haunting of Daniel's locker was a terrifying ordeal that he'll never forget. It was a dark and stormy night, just like in the movies. Thunder rumbled, and rain pounded against the windows of Greenfield High School, a place known for its eerie history. Ethan, Sophie, and Olivia, three friends with a penchant for adventure, found themselves locked inside the school after a late-night study session. The trio had heard the rumors, whispers of strange occurrences that plagued Greenfield High. Legend had it that the school was built on the site of an old cemetery, and the restless spirits of the past roamed the hallways at night. As they roamed the dimly lit halls, their footsteps echoing in the silence, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Guys, this place gives me the creeps," she whispered, clutching her textbook tightly. Ethan chuckled nervously, trying to lighten the mood. "Come on, Liv, it's just an old building. Nothing to worry about." But Sophie, always the fearless one, had a different idea. "Let's play a game. Something to take our minds off all this spooky stuff." "How about hide and seek?" Ethan agreed, hoping the game would distract them from the eerie atmosphere. They drew straws to decide who would be it, and Sophie drew the shortest. "Okay, you two, go hide. I'll count to 100. As Sophie began counting, Ethan and Olivia scurried in opposite directions. Ethan found refuge in a janitor's closet, while Olivia squeezed into a cramped storage room. Both rooms were dimly lit, and the air was thick with dust. After Sophie reached 100, she ventured out into the hallways, searching for her friends. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance in the corners of her vision. She finally spotted Olivia's hiding place and whispered, "Found you." Olivia let out a sigh of relief, but the relief was short-lived. Sophie heard a creaking noise coming from a nearby classroom and decided to investigate. Ethan, unaware of the development, remained hidden. Sophie pushed the door to the classroom open slowly, her heart pounding. The room was pitch black, and her flashlight struggled to pierce the darkness. She hesitated but took a step inside, feeling an unexplainable presence. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind her, and Sophie's flashlight went out. Panic surged through her as she fumbled to turn it back on, but it refused to cooperate. In the pitch darkness, she could hear whispering voices all around her. "Who's there?" Sophie stammered, her voice quivering. But there was no response, only the eerie, spectral whispers growing louder and more malevolent. Meanwhile, Ethan had grown worried about Sophie's prolonged absence. He decided to leave his hiding spot and search for her. As he cautiously stepped into the hallway, he heard faint cries for help. Following the desperate pleas, he stumbled upon the closed classroom door. Ethan pushed against the door with all his might, finally forcing it open. Inside, he found Sophie, trembling and terrified. The whispers had ceased, and the room was eerily quiet once more. Sophie was shaken, unable to explain what had happened. The three friends quickly left the haunted halls of Greenfield High, their hearts still racing with fear. They vowed never to return, but the haunting whispers and inexplicable events would forever linger in their memories. The horrors of that night would remain an unsolved mystery, a dark chapter in the history of Greenfield High School. Isabella and Jenna had always been best friends since their early childhood days. They were inseparable, sharing secrets, dreams, and even their deepest fears. However, nothing could have prepared them for the terrifying ordeal that awaited them during their final year of high school. It all began innocently enough when Isabella found an old diary tucked away in the attic of her grandmother's house. The diary belonged to a girl named Emily, who had attended their high school in the early 1900s. As Isabella leafed through its yellowed pages, she discovered that Emily had written extensively about a hidden room within the school's basement, a room that was rumored to be cursed. According to Emily's entries, the room was a place of darkness and despair, and she claimed to have witnessed strange, ghostly figures lurking in its shadows. Isabella and Jenna, always intrigued by the supernatural, decided to investigate further. One chilly evening, they snuck into the school's basement, armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure. As they descended into the dimly lit underground, a chill ran down their spines. The air was heavy with the scent of dampness and decay. Finally, they found the hidden door that Emily had written about. It was old and covered in cobwebs, but with a collective push, they managed to open it. Inside, they discovered a small, dusty room filled with antique furniture and eerie paintings of long-forgotten teachers. It was exactly as Emily had described. As they explored the room, their flashlights flickered, and strange whispers echoed in their ears. Isabella and Jenna exchanged nervous glances but pressed on. They reached a locked cabinet in the corner of the room, its glass doors revealing an assortment of ancient books and trinkets. Jenna reached for the cabinet's handle, but as soon as she touched it, a deafening scream pierced the air. The girls stumbled back, terrified. The scream seemed to come from all around them, as though the very walls of the room were wailing in agony. Panicked, Isabella and Jenna rushed for the exit, but the door had mysteriously slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside the cursed room. Desperation set in as they banged on the door, pleading for someone to let them out. The room grew colder, and the flickering lights cast eerie shadows on the walls. Isabella and Jenna's breaths became visible in the frigid air. They huddled together, trembling with fear, as ghostly apparitions materialized before them. The figures from Emily's diary, pale and ethereal, swayed ominously in the darkness. Isabella's mind raced, and she remembered the diary's mention of a way to break the curse. She yelled out, "We're sorry for intruding. We didn't mean any harm. Please, forgive us." The room fell silent, and the apparitions faded away. Moments later, the door creaked open, and Isabella and Jenna stumbled out, gasping for breath. They ran out of the basement, leaving behind the cursed room and its secrets. From that day forward, Isabella and Jenna never spoke of the terrifying ordeal again. The hidden room remained locked, a dark secret of their high school. But they knew they had narrowly escaped the clutches of something sinister, something that should have remained undisturbed. As they graduated and moved on with their lives, Isabella and Jenna carried the memory of that night with them, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. High school had given them an education in fear they would never forget, and the haunting presence of Emily's diary would forever haunt their dreams.